mpaka ukamrudisha, ambapo nayo ni mapenzi mengine yale. Aliyekasirika ukaweza kumrudisha katika furaha. Lakini kwa sababu kuna kijiakiba, huwezi kuteswa na mmoja.
Horizon TV, kurunzi ya taifa.
Like we told you in our last episode last week, we are reviewing the year 2018, which is ending in 2 weeks' time. And as you know that 2018, a lot happened in this country, politically, business-wise, and in many other aspects. Sometimes early this year, a handshake happened between the president and NASA leader Raila Odinga. And the political alignments also took a shape. To an extent, it reached today where the president has visited Kisumu. So in our process of reviewing the year, tonight I'm hosting Abdullahi Alas, a media analyst and a humanitarian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Amgad, for having me.
Now before we go far, what can you say about 2018 at a personal level?
Well, 2018 has been, a bumpy year for Kenyans. There has been, the early year we had the election in August. Before that we had the politics of NASA and Jubilee, and the temperatures has been high. But after the election, then you remember NASA have moved to court. The election has been nullified, and I think it will go down in the history of this country. We become the first country that an election has been nullified by a Supreme Court, and the third in the world. After that, we had to do another election. It will also become, I think, the first year in this country where we had 2 elections in a span of like 4 months.
Now we moved from that and of course moved into 2018.
Yes.
And sometimes March this year, there was a reconciliation that was never expected between the president and
yeah, but you see, before the culmination of the handshake, a lot has happened in last year and early this year.
Yes.
And the handshake, in one way, it was good to stabilize the country because we were at the cliff of a very bad state. But now it has also turned into, it's our time to eat together again, because the only difference is that Raila was not in government and he was the opposition leader and he was fighting to be the president. But now that he is in the same page with the president, you've seen what happened with the financial bill, the tax that was increased in this country. I mean, they were all together.
Yes.
In one way now, we will say it was a bad time. The handshake brought...
there's no counter-checking. There
is no opposition literally in this country.
And we're going to reach to all the things that happened. Yeah. We're going to detail them one by one. But first, I'm still in the issue of the handshake. Fast forward to 13th December 2018, today, about the handshake. Aukot Okuro, the leader of the Third Way Alliance,
Yeah, my party.
went
Third
to
Way
court
Alliance.
today.
Went to
Court.
To court, yes.
Yes, this afternoon.
Yeah.
And said he wants the bridge, the building bridge initiative suspended or done away with, because he says it's unnecessary and it's financially burdening. What do you make of that?
Well, I agree with him, because right now the problem of this country is not one that can be solved by the building bridges, because building bridges are people who are answerable to Uhuru and Raila. They are not answerable to the people of Kenya. So if they will be mechanisms to stabilize the country or find way forward, then it should be through parliament. Those are elected people. They should be through the Senate, because Kenya is now a parliament. So I agree with him in the sense that if you look at even the people who are involved, these are people who were in government in the last 50 years, 40 years. I mean, look at Senator of Garissa. I mean, so if people could not do any changes in the last 50 years, building bridges, men who, if you literally look sleep in Parliament and Senate, they will not bring much. So I think Ukuro is on the right track, and we should just we should do away with a lot of expenses in this country, because this morning I was just thinking, if Kenya can survive 50 years with all this corruption, and 10 years, 55 years, and then 10 years of Jubilee's, the duo, Ruto and rather Uhuru, then I think Kenya will have been heaven, because this is the only country where a person who started school work with 50,000 in 2007 at NHIF is now flying a chopper.
To avoid the jam.
To avoid the jam, literally. So the building bridges, the handshake thing, I think Ukuro is on the right track, and he did a civil thing, because going to court is the most civilized way to address than causing havoc or demonstrations or making Nairobi stand still. I will agree with him 100%.
Now, still in the handshake, there are those who say the handshake is between two people, the president and the national leader. No one knows what it entails, and there's also the other side of within Jubilee that is seen to be fighting the handshake. That's maybe not comfortable with the handshake. What do you make of the deputy president's side, and not necessarily, not that much comfortable with the handshake?
Well, I think, Ahmed, you'll agree with me that this country, we focus on personality, politics of personality. It is not the politics of issues based. It is ethnically based. It is about how much vote you can bring. It is between two people, yes, because when that happened, it was secretly done, and maybe through our sources, we know that it was engineered before by family members from both families. And why should a country of 45 million agreement between two people be secret when we have institutions? We have parliament, we have the judiciary, we have the presidency. Secrecy, it's holding the country hostage, because Raila is a personality from, hegemony country. I mean, he comes from the oligarchs. Uhuru's father was the first president. But I think the problem is Kenyans. The problem is Kenyans. They voted them. They voted for Uhuru. The last 13 years, the last 6-7 years, the amount of money that was looted was not looted in the last 50 years. If you look at Nairobi, when Kenyatta was the president, like in the 50s and the 60s.
The president is fighting the corruption, and he says it's a dragon we have to deal with.
Well, when you appoint Moody Awori to be the sports blah blah chairman,
but he said he's keeping the youth money because the youth cannot be trusted.
Well, I think look at the people who are arraigned in court. I mean, the guys in NYS, somebody Gidinji is 50 plus. I mean, when did 50 become youth? Kenyan constitution says maybe youth are below 35. So, and corruption or thievery is not based on age. It's based on personal virtue. So if someone has been a thief when he was 10, he will still remain a thief. But we still have people who are, very upright. So the personality, the president is not fighting corruption. I mean, he's just dramatizing to Kenyans, and that's what they want to hear. I mean, Kenyans are gullible to showbiz. Kenyans are gullible to the nonsense people talk about in the galleries. This country needs...
But people are being... there's a scoop every Friday afternoon, and people are taken to court, and Monday or Tuesday, they are told to give a bail of, I don't know how many, 2 million, 3 million. Isn't that not a something
Well, when the systems of government or the systems or the institutions in the country are working, you don't need to arrest people. The system will arrest them. If somebody has stolen, I mean, I think what we did in the last 2 years is to find out how many people were charged and convicted in a court of law from 1963. None.
For corruption?
None. Not just corruption. Kenyans are jailed every day.
The former senator for, a Jubilee nominated senator in the last parliament has been jailed for 2 years this week.
Has he served? I mean,
she has been, sorry.
When you say jailed, if you look at the constitution, you will be told you either pay 1 million or 2 million.
There was no fine for that one. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, one person.
Yes.
In the last 55 years.
I don't know whether
it
happened this week.
You see, that's now trying to say that one person has been arrested when 99 of them are stealing and no one is arresting them. The country does not need people being arrested. The country does not need the president to tell us he's not fighting corruption.
So are you simply saying the fight against corruption is a smokescreen?
Well, it is not even there. It's just Kenyans are gullible to what Uhuru Kenyatta is saying. I mean, it's nothing. The president, when he wants to fight corruption, how many people has he fired from the cabinet?
For being corrupt?
For being corrupt.
Or being mentioned.
Or being even mentioned in countries like the UK, democracy we follow. If you're alleged to have even slept with a woman 15 years ago, you resign. Just allegation on the mere allegation because you have a reputation to guide. So in this country, I had a friend today at lunch, I was eating lunch, and then someone told me, I mean, this is a country where a front desk receptionist flies. If I got the opportunity, I would have stolen. Yesterday I went to Kajiado to visit someone, and on our way, a woman threw a plastic she drank water from, and a banana leaf she ate. So the bottle, and then I told her, why are you doing it? Why don't you take it to the next dustbin? She told me everyone else is doing. That is the mentality this country has. So if the president wants to fight corruption, it is very easy. If Uhuru wants to remain clean, he starts with himself. Because there are a lot of allegations that his father has stolen a lot of land. He's owning more than a province. The allegation that he was among the people who have been stealing this country. I mean, Deputy President has been mentioned. So where is the issue of self-audit? Where has it gone? When Kenyans who steal petty, but for me, when you kill a maga in the street, Riverside, you shoot him dead. And another person is stealing like 1 billion shillings. 2 billion shillings are disappearing. And no one is done. I mean, it's just the animal farm.
Now again, despite all this fight against corruption, every day we hear a scandal. And nowadays the scandals we hear are not just 100 million, the 200. We're hearing of 61 billion missing at pipeline, 21 billion. I mean,
it is still up to today.
Where are we heading to?
Well, there are two ways this country will work. If you look at the models of democracies, look at our neighbors. Ethiopia is just going through transformation. Somalia is staggering with internal conflict. Uganda is the LRA thing. We have South Sudan. We have Tanzania. Kenya is in a brink. Yesterday I said it's a prison open from the skies. Kenya is just a big prison because what is working in this country? Look at this city. It is very dirty. It rains, sewer is everywhere. What does that tell you?
Jam.
The system, forget about even the jam. The sewer system means the drainage system of Nairobi has not been fixed. But when I'm sorry to say that I would have loved Jomo Kenyatta the senior to be the president today because Nairobi was clean during his time.
But there were no people like they are today.
It doesn't matter. I have lived in Norway. There are people. Where there are people, when you fix the system, because look at London, how many people live in London? More than 10 million. How many people live in the city? Rwanda, they have cleaned their city. Even Mogadishu sometimes is cleaner than the city. And it has been struggling with twins. The system is, people need to plan for the cities. You need to look at the models that have worked in the world, like Venice. Johnson Sakaja and Mutula Kilonzo have, authoritatively discussed this at JKL. On how there is already a plan in place by the former governor. What we need to do as a country is, first of all, we need to strive to be better human beings at individual level.
Okay, the governor of Nairobi, sometimes, I think early this month, tried to fix the jam in Nairobi. And he reversed his policy within a day, within 24 hours basically.
But we say that it's not going to last for 24 hours. You know why? First of all, there are almost 4 million people in this city. 2 million go out a day. which means if you want to fix the system, you bring the tram system. You don't just talk about buses, or there is nowhere in the world where buses are helping people to get rid of jams or personal cars. You bring national transport system.
I had the opportunity to use the Addis Abeba's light train.
Yeah, that one. Or even...
You mean something like that?
Something like that, but if you even go to cities like Oslo, their tram system, every 5 minutes, there are buses every 5 minutes. Whether they are empty or not, even though the population might be smaller than ours, but we can still manage. What can we do? We can arrange to have all buses dropping people at the periphery of Nairobi. And then we have the tram system. Then everybody buys a card, then you use the whole month. If I want to go to Lavington, it takes me 2 hours. And come in the morning from my house, I leave 6, I reach the office at 8:30. I leave at 4, I reach my house at 8:30. I waste 4 hours every day. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money.
Yes,
I could have studied, yes. I could have done a lot of other things. So Nairobi, by electing Joho, is the biggest joke of 2018. Sonko rather. Sonko. So we don't need to be reactionary about Kenya. What we need is to be thoughtful of policies for long term.
Okay, let's be thoughtful of policies for long term. The conversation is getting interesting, and we are just in our first segment of tonight's episode. We are taking a short break, but before we take a break, I would like to remind our viewers we're also live on our social media platform. That is YouTube, Horizontv Kenya, Facebook, Horizontv Kenya, Twitter at Horizontv, myself at Ahmed Khader 1. What's your Twitter handle?
At Bash Alas.
At Bash Alas. We'll be back. Keep it there.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Qur'ani kitabu changu, Qur'ani mwongozo wangu, Qur'ani mwombezi wangu, Qur'ani pumbao langu, Qur'ani kitabu changu, Qur'ani mwongozo wangu, Qur'ani mwombezi wangu.
Allah is generous and loves His generous servants. Allah is the knower and loves His knowledgeable servants. Allah is omnipotent and loves His courageous servants. Allah is beautiful and loves beauty in His servants. Allah is merciful and loves His merciful servants, and He is merciful towards them. Allah is the concealer and loves whoever conceals the faults of His servants. Allah is tolerant and loves whoever tolerates His servants. Allah is the forgiver and loves whoever forgives His servants. Allah is kind and loves His kind servants, and hates whoever is severe and harsh-hearted. Allah is lenient and loves His lenient servants. Allah is patient and loves His patient servants. Allah is courteous and loves His courteous servants. Allah is just and loves His just servants. Allah is the pardoner and loves whoever accepts the excuses of His servants.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome back to the program. If you are joining us, we are on the Weekly Matters, and I'm your host Ahmed Qadar. This evening we are in our previous episode last Friday, we are reviewing the year, and in our process of reviewing the year, we are discussing the major issues that happened this year, and of course with Abdullahi Alas, an analyst. Now, before we went for break, we were talking about the issue of corruption and all these things. Now, another very important topic that was majorly discussed in this country on the mainstream media, social media, on any other platform available, is the issue of Kenya's debt, the debt we have vis-a-vis the corruption. And before Jubilee came to power, that is 2013, Kenya's debt was about 2-something trillion.
Yeah, in the last 50 years.
Yes, in the last 50 years. Of course, you know, that was before Jubilee came to power.
Yeah.
5 years down the line, or 6 years down the line, we're talking about close to 7 trillion.
Trillion.
Yeah. Now,
It's tripled.
It in fact more than tripled.
More than tripled.
Yes. Now, first of all, before we go into the issue of the debt in deep, what would you have to say about that discussion of debts?
Well, I think debts, countries that have developed tech debts, especially the developing world like Africa, like in Kenya, but you see, the issue is not taking the debt. The issue is how do you utilize the debt and plan for the payment. Now, when you've already, like I went by the SGR, first class, about 3,000 shillings. I was disgusted. As a Kenyan, I wasn't proud that I went by SGR. It's sounding like a colonial train. But when you go to places like Europe, you will have gotten maybe more expensive bullet train with a little bit more expensive, but you will have reached Mombasa in 2 hours or 1.5 hours. So when I went by train, I came back by bus.
You decided not to
I
come back
decided
by
it is
train.
tiring. They only give you 1 cup of coffee
The entire
in the
journey.
entire journey. There is no internet, there is no TV, there is nothing. The seats cannot stretch.
Are those things indicated in the is it reflected in the payment before you
No.
for you board?
They just
that you're
pay
going to be given?
3,000. It just tells you first class 3,000. Everywhere you
But
go
of
in the
course,
world.
first class comes with its own
First
privileges.
class comes with a lot of goodies.
Yes.
You expect to have even a blanket if you feel it's cold.
Yes.
You know, you have to have a pillow.
Yes.
You know, in trains that we go with.
Yes.
Now, when I went with that train, the sound even, you will go to Mombasa when you have eardrums. Because at the rail, you will hear the Greek sound from the movement of the train. So, I think because of Ahmed Nasir was once quoted that the Chinese government are corrupting Kenyan government by bringing money through cargo and JKR. I think I agree with him because I have lived in Europe and I've gone to Europe. European system of trains are so effective that you don't even hear the sound, but it comes with cost. So if I was Uhuru, I would have rather paid the cost. I would have been happy if my child and his child will pay the debt, but they will reach Mombasa in 1.5 hours or 2 hours.
Now, you're talking of the SGR.
As an example, because it was taken through a debt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was finished.
Yes.
The train is plying the route.
Yes.
We're talking of building a road on that train to Mombasa, a highway.
You see, it's a milking cash cow for this government.
Yes.
It is a milking government, venture for Jubilee. Because even right now, if you look at the transport system of the cargoes, people are still using vehicles, big machine cars on road to transport their cargo. Why? It is 6 times more expensive to transport on Kenya Railway, SGR, than through
the normal
road.
Yes.
So if you look at maybe the hype after the hype, people are still, I came by Dreamline from 4 p.m. up to 10:30 p.m. The buses were leaving like every 20 minutes, every 15 minutes, and you could see they are full, which means how many people are traveling by rail? Very few. Because in the bus, you have the advantage or the leisure to alight at Mutendei, that place, whatever the name is, then you will relieve yourself, buy food you want, the kind of food you want.
Of course, they pack all buses.
They pack all buses, so you will have the leisure and the experience of being a traveler. But this one, you'll just be seated. You will be only watching either a hill or a road or a donkey or a cow, and then after 5 hours. So I think the depth is, it was just an extended avenue to steal.
Now we are taking these debts we're supposed to repay as a nation. And you know, in normal business, when you take a loan, you don't take another loan to pay that loan. You take that loan for financial investment or whatever, it yields money, and then you
through
pay.
planning you pay.
And then you pay.
Yeah.
So in our debt repayment, there are those who say we are taking other forms of loans to pay debts.
Of course.
Does it make sense to you?
It doesn't make sense. You know, the experience I had with the train is that there was a Chinese guy. That is the sad part. And I felt very angry. He came over to me, I was just standing in the alley, and he said, I want to ask you, what do you think we can improve? I told him the first improvement of this country is to take you Chinese back to your country. How does a Chinese come over to me as a Kenyan and ask me, how do I improve a bus, rather a train? It is disgusting as a nation.
What did he tell you when you told him that kind of response you gave?
No, he was a bit diplomatic because he knows they own the country. I mean, they literally own the country. At the first class lounge at the SGR, the lady who gives order is a Chinese. So literally, we have been recolonized. So I think the president...
They have also given in yesterday's Jamhuri Day a Chinese an award, and but they're going to come to that, you know.
Yeah. Uhuru gives to awards whoever he wants, including those, you know, who have not done much of this country. But the guys, if I was Uhuru, I would have gone to Kikomba and award those mothers. Those are the economy of this country depends upon those informal sector. The guys at Juakali, the guys who sell charcoal, these are the guys who pay tax. But this notion of classing, Uhuru is not a military person trained, the president. I respect the presidency, but what he did yesterday was a bit disgusting. He's not a dictator. Kenya is a democracy.
But those before him did.
No, yeah, Kenya was like when Kenyatta did, we did not repeal Section 2A. I mean, Kenya has changed. There is the age of Twitter and Facebook, and information can be streamed before even State House knows. So what we need to happen is, I will ask the president to look at himself in the mirror and for one time stop this drama he's given to this country. We don't need drama. We don't need tough talking men. We don't need, you know, the shenanigans of political rhetorics. Yes. What we need is the president to fight corruption head on. If his brother is a thief, he takes the cross and he doesn't interfere with the cases. But if you look at the court system, like in the case of the cases that come from northern Kenya, I mean, a lot of money exchange hands. Kenya is so corrupt that...
What do you mean? Which case are you talking about?
There are issues of, there's a governor case in court, Wajir governor case is in court. There were MPs before him who went up to the Supreme Court. And people are saying that
the judiciary is independent.
Apart from Isaac Leona,
yes,
and the Chief Justice, those two, there is information coming out that the rest can be compromised. There are people who allege that they have put figures of 200 million. There are allegations of, you know, so much money.
Anyway, let's not dwell into allegations.
What does that say? What does says that our systems are so bad that people, like right now, Ahmed, if your telephone is stolen,
yes, will
you go to Central Police Station to report? You will not. Because the frustration you will go through in arresting someone, in getting justice,
yes, is
not consummate to what you're supposed to get as a person.
Good.
So taking debt, paying debt, it is just another venture of...
Now the issue of that debt now and its repayment has burdened Kenyans in
so many ways.
Yeah. And one of the ways it led to the enactment and the passing of the tax bill, the VAT bill, where VAT was imposed, 8% on petroleum products.
Yeah.
And we know what happened at the parliament. And I want you to give us now, as we review the year, what image did you portray in parliament at that time, and what are the consequences? Of course, we discussed that in our previous segments, but in our review, I don't know how many months down the line now, by about 3-4 months down the line since that taxation
enactment was
passed.
Yeah.
How are Kenyans faring?
Well, I am one of them, and I'm disappointed with Parliament. And remember, this came after the handshake.
Yes.
Yeah, this came after the handshake. The Parliamentarians have decided that it's going to be 16%. Then the president thought he was doing favor to Kenyans. Instead of abolishing it, he reduced it to 8%.
And Kenyans just made noise on Twitter and Facebook, and unlike what happened in France last week. This week, the West, if you're following the international news.
Yeah, I followed France, the protest. What has happened in Kenya is, there is an article once I read by Mutai Ngunyi back in 2009 that he said Kenyans are a group of cowards. I agree with him. They have been divided into tribal lines. They sing the X, the Y, the Z tribe. But the problems, the burden is that I don't think Kenyans are patient. They are not patient. Most of them are fools. Because when you are, and I don't think most Kenyans are educated or learned. They've just gone to school. Because when you're educated and learned,
it comes with values.
It comes with values and principles. And then if somebody wants to say, Abdullahi is my son, or my son so and so, and our people are our people. There is no people. Kenya is a group of, this country, we have people who are strangers to each other, but they live together. That's why you call citizens, like Kenyan citizens. These are a group of strangers who live together, because how many people do you know in this country? There are almost 45 million Kenyan people, persons. So we are a group of strangers who live together, who have agreed that this is our country. When this is our country, you don't care whether Uhuru is a Kuk or Raila Odinga is a Jaluo or Ruto. I don't care whether the president is Somali. What I need as a person is an environment where I can thrive, an environment where my sons and daughters will thrive. They will go to school. I will not be worried that they're going to be kidnapped.
Are we there? Are we going to be there?
Well, I don't know. We are better than...
When are we going to be there?
I don't... Maybe you and I might not be there to experience, but...
Isn't that too long? If God, of course, anyone can pass any time.
It has taken us 55 years to change our money. We have just had coins, just to agree that we will remove the figure of a person to an identity of nationalhood. It has taken us 55 years.
Okay, that's a good one. Now, talking of the acrimonious taxation bill, now come to the issue of now fighting corruption. The DPP, many say he's working hard to ensure that the dragon of corruption is fought to the end. What do you make of the DPP as an office in the fight against corruption in the last few months?
DPP as a person,
as an office,
no. Before the office, there is the person.
Yes.
DPP as a person, I think, is a decent man, but he's occupying an office that is very rotten.
He appointed a foreigner, a lawyer from the UK, to act as a
suddenly who is appearing before Kenyan judges.
Yes, yeah.
Suddenly,
as a prosecutor, and he has suspended the recruitment of I don't know how many numbers of I think about 40 prosecutors. Isn't he really working to change the way?
If you are suffering from cancer and you want to use Panadol as a treatment, you're always fooling yourself. The problem of this country is bigger than bringing a white man. He has been here before. The sad part is the Queen's Counsel appears before Kenyan judges who have been Kenyan lawyers. So, is he going to appear before a Queen's judge in the UK? No, he's going to appear before a Kenyan judge. So, it doesn't make any difference. For him, the arguments and the rhetorics in court and the law and this, Kenyans are not fools. Orengo has already said, go back to where you come from. Why? There are procedures. You don't, just because you're white and you came from the UK, you can't just appear in Kenyan courts. There are systems in this country. You must follow them.
Finally, he was allowed to practice.
He was allowed after the court, the lawyers appearing from Wilu have challenged him in front of 3 bench judges. So, even the DP office had laxity in telling him, look, young man, white man, this is not England, so there is a process. Pay that fee, go to that, get your certificate of practicing. After that's when you appear. You could see the embarrassment by the DPP.
Can a Kenyan lawyer practice and appear in London to represent?
I don't think so. I don't think so. If it does,
a government agency,
government agencies, and like I think it is this mental immaturity of Africans that the white man, Atiende Amolo is a very decent lawyer.
Okay, we are going to come back. I can see Alas is really agitated and is going to say it as it is. He is known for saying as it is. We are taking a short break, but we'll be back. But before we go for break, as usual, our social media platform, Horizontv Kenya on Facebook, YouTube, the same name, Twitter at Horizontv, myself at Ahmed Qadar 1. Keep it here for our last segment of this episode.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Reflect on this.
Muslims, the seerah is a spring that always gives us water. It is a never-ending source of wisdom and gems. From the seerah, we learn that sincerity to Allah is the most precious commodity, that the pleasure of the people is never a praiseworthy goal, that the worship of Allah is the most satisfying nourishment, that adversity only increases the piety of the pious, that dua is the weapon of the oppressed, that help comes from Allah, sometimes from the most unexpected of sources, that victory only comes to those who are patient, that with every difficulty comes ease, and that iman and taqwa shall always be victorious in the end. From the seerah we learn, from the seerah we learn.
Reflect on this.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome back to the show, The Weekly Matters. I'm your host Ahmed Qadar, and this is the final segment of tonight's episode. We are reviewing the year, as we have promised in our last episode for last Friday, that the next 4 weeks we are going to discuss 2018 in various forms and from various angles. As before we went for break, we have been in the issue of the corruption, the debts, the taxation bill that passed, the acrimonious bill, the handshake. Now I want us to go a little bit deep into the county issues. First of all, before we go far to the county issues, this year counties have been complaining a lot about lack of funds. Isn't it constitutional to give them their share of the...
It is constitutional, yes. But it's also constitutional to deny them if they don't liquidate.
Yes.
You're an accountant, so yes. You know this stuff.
Yes.
When you're given money,
yes.
Even as an officer who works with an organization,
yes.
you bring the receipts.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
And then you explain how you spend the money.
Yes.
What counties need to do is to follow suit of Makueni. For me, I don't praise the governor. I praise the people of Makueni. The people of Makueni have sat even after all the hullabaloo of the first year, and brought him back.
Yes.
Today,
and took out every
MCA
except one
except
guy.
one.
Yes.
And that guy, I was told, he was used to work with him.
Yes.
He survived because he believed in the vision of the governor.
Yes.
Now, what needs to happen in northern Kenya is the people, they say clan X, clan Y in Wajir, Mandera and Garissa, but they suffer all of them together.
Now you are, okay.
The issue of now lack of money, we know what's happening in northern Kenya. It is not secret that, you know, crony people are used to loot the government resources. People are taking contracts through relatives. What has that done? In every county, like in Wajir right now, because of the contestation between the former governor and the current governor, the county has delayed. I have gone through some parts of that county, and some of the projects that were done either before or now are stalling, some of them. And it's not worth the amount of money that they are saying they paid. The sad thing is, people in northern Kenya have complained of marginalization in the last 50 years. Last year alone, how many billions did it go to northern Kenya? Almost 40, close to 130, 120, 110 billion. There is no a single tangible thing that has been thought of that is sustainable. If the governor leaves, the project stalls and dies. If the member of parliament leaves, the project stalls and dies.
Now, I want to take you back to Makueni. It's good that you mentioned Makueni. And one of the things that came out of Makueni this week that we have come to know is a hospital.
Yeah, 130 million.
Built for 135 million.
Fully fledged.
How many projects do you know cost 135 million in northern Kenya? Or
the rest is 220 and plus.
Yes. For a bridge, for a gate.
For a gate, for
yes.
all the nonsense.
Yes.
So what happened in Northeastern is that, first of all, the people have elected their tribesmen. They did not elect leaders. The majority in Wajir, they have elected their boy. The majority in Mandera have elected their boy. The majority in Garissa, they have elected the boy. The boy they thought had big numbers.
But this issue is not only Northeastern, it's a nationwide in terms of counties. And we are yet to see a county. And will it be fair to say it's a Northeastern thing?
Yeah, because it is. You cannot compare Kiambu with Wajir or Mandera.
Kiambu right now, people are complaining.
No, they are complaining. But look at the infrastructures that were there in the last 50 years.
Yes.
That's where the president came from. Even though we cannot say they are fully developed, but in terms of social amenities, they're better than us.
So the question was, the issue why a county is not getting their share. Is it that there's no money at the national level, or is it that the counties are not using the money they are given, and that now they are denied money?
Well, there is two schools of thought. There are those economists who say that the Kenya is there is lack of cash, there is lack of money in the central bank. That's one school of thought. The other thought is that some counties are not cooperating with the day's government. They are not bringing back the fees they were told to pay. So they pay dearly for that. But more importantly is the amount of money that is used. Right now, what most of the counties are getting are recurrent expenditures. Development has been withheld by the government, the national government. So if the governors could have put people with integrity. Ma'al Elias is from my village, Khalicha. He has been awarded by the president.
Who is he?
Elias Shabdi Jilou.
Who is he?
He used to be a head teacher in Furaha. He used to be a head teacher in Wajir High School. This is a guy who was so honest that if he gets money from the government or from an NGO, and then he does whatever he was doing with, and then there is remaining amount of $10,000 or $20,000, he brings it back with a report that we have used this. This is the amount. Today, he is the Secretary General of this country. A guy from a village, Ministry of Education. He's the guy who is always with Madam Amina.
Okay.
He's come from a small village. But through honesty, today he's traveling around the world. We have honest Kenyans. There is no short of them. So the problem I have seen with Northeastern is the governors, most of them, have appointed people who can take instructions.
Not people who can tell them this is how it's supposed to be and not the way you want it to be.
There is how I'm a student of governance in my master right now. Governance has principles that are laid down. You must follow. Then how it works. If you don't, you'll be in a mess. So you don't bring people who will say yes to
Now,
you.
let's talk now. Instead of now, you know, the governors, there are people who were elected now to hold them accountable. They are called MCS, the county legislative.
Do they even
arm.
exist?
Now that is what I want us to talk about as we hammer the governors and the executive part of the county government. And I don't want it to be specific to any county.
No. What is happening in Northeastern is that
not Northeastern itself.
Even in the country.
In the country, the issue of the county assemblies, you know, in review of 2018, do you think the county assemblies in the various counties are up to the job that they're given? Or are they doing their job basically?
They are not. You know the problem with most of them, first of all, is you see what was happening in town hall here. It was an embarrassment.
Yes,
what happened in Nairobi.
The county of Nairobi.
In city county of Nairobi. There was a lady who was an MCA. She didn't know her role as an MCA, that she was an oversight authority here. Now, in most counties, we were discussing northern Kenya, is we have elected young men. Most of the counties, the guys who are elected, some of them did not even marry.
When marriage prerequisite.
No, well, we Somalis is that when you are established, when Ahmed Khader gets an education, he works for like 5-6 years, it's the next venture after establishing himself.
Yes, it's a common sense.
It's a common sense thing, because as a man you need a family, and as an African thing. Now, what needs to happen is that when you elect a man below 40, when you elect a man below 35, when you elect a man below 30, he's still finding when to self-actualize. Maybe he's just a diploma or a degree holder. He doesn't work much. That's why the other time I said, if you're wearing fancy suits after you have been elected, you're a thief. If you start buying...
Well, when you hustler like us, we do, you know?
No. Yes. You know, right now, you're not a county employee, but you wear suits cost like $300. Because you can afford, you have the money. It came through your hard work. No one brought you here. Yes. No one brought me here. Yes. What I'm saying is, let every man struggle to be a human being before election positions. If you are driving before election, if you had fancy suit before election,
and you are alluding that people go to this country to make money and not to serve.
Not to serve.
That's what you're saying.
Right now, what happened is the governors and the MCS have colluded so that they are given projects. I know MCS in Northern Kenya, I'm not going to mention the county, who are given project based on the agreement between them and the governor. 30 million, 25 million, 40 million.
Them?
To buy them. To buy them. Now, they say that when you own a dog and you feed it, you own it. The Somali will say, if a mouth has eaten bribe, they can't bite.
You pay the people? Calls the tune.
He calls?
The tune.
The tunes.
Yes.
So that's what's happening. It is time the middle class in this country reflect on the do's and don'ts of politics. This idea of saying politics is not my business. There is a German writer who once said it's about, you know, the political prostitute, you know, the political illiterate.
Yes.
He talks about, because of bad politics we have prostitution. Because of bad politics we have jogora. Because of bad politics we have thieves. In Holland there is no prison. Prisons are turned to be galleries for art. Why? The systems have worked for everybody.
Yes.
Every human being wants dignity. You see someone stealing, he's hungry. Do you expect you to have an iPhone that is worth 100,000? You're working here, you're driving. A 30-year man, who is very strong in these streets, he has nothing because the system offers him nothing. He will mug you. Now, it will come a point, if Kenya is not careful, that the people who think they have money will be eaten by those who don't have. So, Northeastern, Kenya, county assemblies, you've seen when Makueni governor in the first term declined to offer them bribe or to offer them projects or to offer them an eye to do whatever they want. They marched from there to State House. But he stood his ground. But the people of Makueni saw that no, this guy is right. The difference also is Professor Makueni, Kivuta Kibwana is not a small man.
He has been this, you know,
he's a professor of law.
Yes, and he has served public for 40 years plus.
What do we do in Northern Kenya?
Yes. No.
What do we do in Kenya?
Yes.
What do we do in assemblies?
Yes.
Assemblies are not a place where you seek unemployment.
Now the question is, how do we overcome this as we close the year?
We talk about it.
What do we do? Of course, next year is an election year.
No, I know.
But How do we change as we head? Right now, we just had the 2 elections a year ago, that was so costly in terms of financial side and in terms of even human life.
Yeah,
and
people
the kind
died.
of things
People died.
we went through.
Economy went down.
Yes. A year later, we're not even recovered. We are playing 2022 politics, brother. Are we serious?
No, we are not. You see, the moment you see people who are talking about 2022 right now, they are silly and very stupid. When you're a leader and you are elected to serve, you think about how do you improve systems? How do you create, how do you innovate so that these people can work towards a very peaceful, prosperous, booming economy. But the moment we're in 1 year down the election, we're talking about 2022. I mean, the sad part, Kenyans are valuable to that story. That's what they want. Because today, if you talk about business, if you talk about state of the art in terms of culture, no one comes. But if you go to the streets and talk about this and that, so what we need is the middle class in this country have failed Kenyans. Let us go to our villages. Let us educate our people on their rights. The Constitution of Kenya is, in principle, a document. In spirit, it has not been implemented. Up to today, there has not been a single civic education sponsored by the national government for the Constitution. So people don't know the Constitution. How will you fight for your rights when you're scared of a police officer?
How will you fight for your right when you're scared of a police officer? I would like us to stop it there because my director is saying we have no time. And it has been nice having you, Alas. And this was a very interesting conversation that we would like to continue. Thanks for your time. And thanks for the analysis you have given us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll wind it there. I would like to remind our viewers that we are also live on our social media platform. That is Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. That's all Horizontv Kenya. Myself at Ahmed Qadar 1. Till next Friday. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Horizon TV, kurunzi ya taifa.
Qur'ani kitabu changu, Qur'ani mwongozo wangu, Qur'ani mwombezi wangu, Qur'ani pumbao langu, Qur'ani kitabu changu, Qur'ani mwongozo wangu, Qur'ani